There we go. Well, greetings and salutations, test takers. This is Series 7 Guru coming to you from my off-grid studio, getting our kicks on the historic Route 66 with our always very special guest, the Test Geek himself, managing member, Brian Lee of Test Geek Exam Prep LLC. Tell us what series exam you're taking, where are joining us from, and we'll see who wins the contest. We've had some people from India, Europe, wherever it happens to be. Maybe you're local. After we get on with the housekeeping, if you do have a content question for us, just tell Brian and I what exam you're taking so we can be better prepared at what depth we need to try and attempt to answer your question. Because some of there's content does overlap, but how they test on different exams could be different. Not necessary, but helpful. If you're looking for a supplement to your study materials, your paid study materials, the best free supplement is my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is organized by series. So you find your series, SIE, for example. There are, I think, 3 playlists. The playlists are in suggested watch order. The videos are in suggested watch order. It's a buffet. Take what you like, leave what you don't. If you're looking for a particular topic, please, please, please use the channel search bar. Put in accrued interest or parity or margin, and all those videos will magically appear. And that's just an easier way than trying to find whatever you're looking for, a particular topic in in the playlist. If you're looking for a paid supplement, you can do no better than a Kaplan Q Bank. Until we can get Brian to write a 3,600 question Q Bank with a performance tracker, it's the best. And for Series 7, it's like $50-something, $55.80, I think, $50.60 with the 15% discount code at checkout. Brian has been kind enough to provide us a 20% discount for his content. All in on Brian and a Kaplan Q Bank, you're looking like $150. Brian's somewhere in the $100 neighborhood with the 20% discount. And what's great about his distillation and video form is there's no wasted content in any of his stuff. But it comes with a PDF, and as part of that PDF, I think, and I say continually to people, a practice test for all the various series exams that has the strongest correlation to the actual exam. I continue to get that ask me, Dean, who do you think has the less variance, has the best tighter standard deviation? And the answer is the test geek himself. We do a weekly Q&A jam session. You can access that on my booking page. Most of the stuff on my booking page is paid. There's not many free stuff. Everything here on the YouTube channel is free. Hardly anything is free on the booking page. But what is free is a weekly Q&A session. We do a monthly book club. This month we're doing Source Code, Bill Gates' memoir. We also have the coaching call for the drawing winners that you can go there if you win the drawing and sign up for that coaching call. So I'll talk more about that when we get there. If you're looking for a community, we have several communities. It's hard to do this on your own. You're not alone. There's a lot of people in a similar situation. If you're trying to connect with those people, we have a Facebook community called Baby Brokers Doing Hat Tricks. Baby Brokers is a term of endearment for rookies in the securities industry. Hat tricks are 3 successes in a limited time frame. SIE 766 or SIE 663. You get the idea. We also have some Reddit communities. Our Reddit communities for the 6 are R Series 6. For the SIE and 7, R Series 7. For all the NASA exams, 63, 65, 66, R Series 66. For 9s, 10s, 4s, 24s, 57s, 79s, R Series 24. If you miss our live stream on Tuesday, it is available as a podcast replay on both the YouTube channel and on Spotify. All right, let's go see what we got going into our content here. Boom, boom, boom. Rosa, all right. Woohoo! Testing victory. Notman Rosa, I think, is a great test prep vendor. They're white glove. I mean, they give you good service, Rosa. It's Notman Marks, and we've been lucky enough to have Brian Marks of Notman Marks participating in our Reddit communities. Part of me like, gee, Brian, do you really have the time to put in this? So you're in good hands with Notman. Like most of the test prep vendors, Brian, I would probably tell you they go a little overboard. But hey, too much is better than not enough. What I mind, a stop order issued by the administrator. So the administrator does not have a badge and a gun. right? A judge has a marshal. So that, the way that we enforce is first the administrator is going to issue a stop order, say, hey, Rosa, stop this. But if you ignore the stop order, then the state administrator goes to court and gets a court order, an injunction. So a stop order is kind of, I think, straightforward. It's stop what you're doing, right? And if you ignore the stop order, sometimes we might say cease and desist order. I don't think there's any, difference in the language of that, but that's what that is. And then the other thing I would, don't go overboard on 63, but remember, it's a legal test. And so this idea is called due process, that if I'm going to issue a stop order and not give you an opportunity for a hearing, well, then, I got to have some reason. And usually that would be a sense of urgency that if I don't tell you to stop, there's going to be more people losing money. Brian, anything you would add to the stop order as it relates to?
I'll tell you, Dean, I get this question quite often over the years. It was an area that I actually had a little issue with when I was first taking my exams, because the textbooks, again, my favorite, the textbooks are really hard to describe. So how I genuinely describe it to people is temporarily the administrator can do just about anything.
I like it. You could deny.
But there cannot be any final order until this person has an opportunity for a hearing. That's how I think of it.
I like it. I like
it. There's something now that we got to move on. So we do a cease and desist order, but that's only temporary until we give them an opportunity for a hearing. That's your only help.
Brian is so good at putting the NASA legalese into plain English. I'm telling you that's awesome. I would just add, Rosa, to make sure on those NASA exams, try and stay out of the weeds as much as possible. Yeah. Stay on the broad avenues and highways. Hey, Dean, I'm taking my 66 in a week and a half. I finished all my material. I'm now reviewing any tips for the next week and a half. Well, Brian and I think 7 to 10 days out, Luke, we should be looking for practice test scores, right? So have you done a practice test yet? What was that initial score? So you can do that, and then you can do remediation. So that's what you want to do, right? You want to read the book, you want to do your unit quizzes, and now your time to start taking intellectual inventories where you're at. We want to have a margin of safety. So I would ask, as if I was your corporate trainer, I'm not, let's pretend I am, Luke. I'd say, okay, over this next week and a half, 10 days, how many practice tests are you planning on taking? I don't think you have to do one every day, but maybe 3, 4, whatever you commit to. Because then remember, you also got to commit to remediation, right? And it means after you take it, you're going to go back and use the performance tracker to find what you need to improve on. And so and then you're going to continue on with your study effort, right? So Brian's showing you his, I think you call it the 3 pillars, Brian?
3-pillar process. That's right.
There you go. So
and it seems like he is in perfect timing. I really like where his timing is, because this middle section, of course, is what Dean and I do. Right? We clarify some important points. We concentrate and distill to what's most testable. Those textbooks and those practice questions go, into Alice's rabbit hole sometimes. So that's what Dean and I do. We clarify and we distill down to what the testable stuff is. And 7 to 10 days out, you start working on those simulated exams.
Yeah, don't wait if you're not Luke. Luke, I think, is in striking distance. He's right where he needs to be.
Exactly.
And where we want him to be. And man, don't wait too long to get going on this last stage of your study effort, because I don't know if you, Brian, how many times do we find somebody that's in the 3rd pillar with like 2 days left, and the timeline is collapsing on them. So make sure 7, 10 days out, you're doing that first initial kind of inventory to just kind of see where you're at. So we know, where Luke's at, what needs to be fixed, what needs to be worked on. So Luke, I feel pretty good that you are in pretty good position there.
He looks like really good timing. Really good timing.
So, yeah, so nothing to worry about. I don't see anything to be worried about. Illinois, Ivy, how are you? From Series 7. All right, Illinois. Hey, Dean, Joseph from Kaplan Cast. Well, Joe, thank you so much. I always love it when we have good active classes. I've got a good one this time, Brian. I think we got like 30 people. I think we're going for 30-0, right? We're going to have the entire cohort pass their test. I asked him if this pass, a guarantee, is a firm commitment or best efforts. Right? And I've said, I'm going to extend my best efforts. We have had classes with 100% pass rate. Well, Joe, I need to have somebody put a fire on my butt to get that done. I've started a couple times on it. I would hope to have the Mighty 90 out by Monday. So if you're testing next week, the Mighty 90. For those of you who are not familiar with my channel, I have some very popular videos that have contributed to many, many testing victories. That series is called Your Series, insert SIE 7, in 60 minutes. And everybody was asking me to update that. And I thought, well, am I going to do like Series 7 in 60 minutes part 2? I didn't think so. So I had another series that I started, Joe, called the Mighty 90 at 90 minutes. And, my YouTube channel is kind of unique because when I started it, I was doing long form format and nobody thought people would watch videos for an hour. In my world, an hour is, not a whole lot of time, but, so I'm now working my way through Mighty 90. I have a Mighty 90 for NASA exams. I have a Mighty 90 for the SIE. It's already contributing to test victories, and you can watch the 60 SIE in 60. So I hope by Monday I'll have that out for you, Joe. If you're testing Friday, I think we had a couple people today that are testing Friday, so that won't quite work. By the way, I didn't mention it, but once a quarter I do a Kaplan class, a collaborative class between Guru Exam Prep, me, and Kaplan. I do the Series 7 the second month of each quarter. I do the 66 the third month of each quarter. Taking the SIE early next month. All right, Kendall. Listen, the SIE is the first leg of your testing journey, right? You can't go 3-0 without going 1-0. So I really want you to overlearn that SIE because it'll pay huge dividends in the second leg of your testing journey. If the second leg, I'm assuming there's a second leg. You don't have to have a second leg. Some people just take the SIE to take it. But Kendall, assuming your second leg is a 6, I think if you overlearn the SIE, you can almost pass out of a Series 6. I think you only need a week or two, maybe tweak a couple things, and you're good to go. If the second leg of your testing journey is a 7, it's going to be more depth, but it's nice to come in there with a nice knowledge base to kind of extend that base as it relates to your Series 7 than to come out of your SIE kind of wobbly. And, you're 1-0, but, you want to come in strong if you get. What do you need to understand about net present value? Well, this is a live stream Q&A. It is not a tutoring session. I will comment briefly. Luis, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So net always means difference. Net. So when you think of net, you should be thinking of a difference. And then there's this concept called present value, right? So when we do, for example, discounted cash flow is a valuation technique. Brian is not only a test geek, he's also a math geek. And I say, hey, Brian, I'd like you to use discounted cash flow to tell me what the present value of this bond is I'm considering purchasing. And so Brian comes back and he says, Dean, the present value of the bond is $990. That's the present value. And then Brian says, this kind of geeks we are together. He said, well, Dean, I just told you the present value is $900. What's the price of the bond? What is the net present value? I go, damn, Brian, it's $900. It's zero. There is no net present value. He goes, well, what are you going to do about that? I said, well, I guess the market's pretty efficient, Brian, because I was hoping there would be a difference between what you just told me the present value is and the price. And I say, hey, try this other bond. I got another bond for you, Brian. Now, listen, I said this before, and somebody took me to task, Brian. My guy was called Lee. Lee is my guy who really did math for me professionally. When the math was important, it needed to be done professionally. I would pay him to do it because I want to know the math is pristine and whether it's a discounted cash flow or whatever it is. Anyways, I said that, and this guy said, well, you shouldn't be in our business if you can't do your own math. I said, well, I assure you, there are all kinds of people in our business who are hire out the math, and there's all kinds of math people that do pretty well in our business as well. So I say, Brian, can run the numbers on this next bond. And he calls me, he said, Dean, I got the math done. Present value on this one is $950. I go, woohoo! He goes, why are you excited? I said, Brian, I can get the bond for $930. You just told me the present value is $950. It has net present value positive of 20. So Luis, in a valuation technique, I found a good deal. I found a good deal because I can buy it for $930 and its present value is $950. So you kind of need to recognize that positive net present value is evaluation is a good deal. I'm simplifying. What you would say? Undervalued is probably the way we'd say that on the test. And then if Brian tells me it's 950, I go, damn, it's 980. It's got negative net present value. So I would relate it to this idea. I'm not going to have to do any math here about overvalued or undervalued. Your thoughts, Brian?
Yeah. First of all, I have an 18-minute video on YouTube.
18 minutes.
Something like that. I know. On net present value, discounted cash flow, time value of money. The 65, you're not going to see too much of it, especially as much as you see in the textbooks.
Yeah.
But there might be a couple of them. Look at the YouTube. It makes it so much easier, especially for the 65.
So a couple things for those of you who may be new and joining us. I don't promise to do it tonight, but by tomorrow, anytime Brian mentions one of his YouTube videos or I mention a video, what I do is I put that in the video description, the link, so you can go there. Now, you don't need to wait for me to do that. You can go to Brian has a free YouTube channel for Test Geek. So he does have some free content there that's available. And so if you don't wait for me to post the link, just go there directly and you can find that. And as usual, Brian's pretty good. I also have a tutoring replay where I did a tutoring session with somebody on what's called analytical methods. And that is part of that. And so I'll link that as well. All right, what's next? I'm in my 30-day holding period. Damn. Well, listen, Brian and I both agree the 65 is a beast. We think it's one of the hardest tests out there just because it's a lot of stuff and it doesn't have as much of a narrative thread to it as does other exams. Almost halfway through the Test Geek. All right, woohoo! Midterm time, right? So if you get all the way through the Test Geek, now Brian brought up the third pillar, the 3-pillar study plan. What I would tell you, Garrick, is that Brian does a really good job on distillation. No wasted space in his videos or his content. And so that's why I'm glad to hear that, because what that will help you now is decide, depending on who your test prep vendor, if it's past perfect. Oh my God, thank God you got Brian. Because, past perfect is they got all kinds of stuff. And what you're looking for as you go through Garrick, Brian stuff is what I call confirmation. Brian talks about it. Your test prep vendor talks about it. If Brian talks about, or your test prep vendor talks about it, and Brian doesn't, and I get this sometimes, Brian. Well, Brian never went over this in his course. Because he didn't think it was important. Right?
Exactly.
I have to say, you guys do an amazing job. Thank you so much. I just received a 73 on Brian's. That's great. Remember, that's what's great about correlation. I get people who are upset. I had somebody get a 75 and they were not going to reschedule on your test. I said, Brian, no. I said, Brian's 75 is a 75. So it's all good. All good. Stressing isn't helpful. So I don't see here where you're testing when your date is. But it's a healthy level of anxiety is okay. But remember, the most important thing, I can't prove it, but anecdotally, this is worth 10 points. You've got to be confident in the execution of your study plan. You've got to be confident in yourself. And most importantly, on test day, you got to be confident in your answers. And there's no reason with a 73 on a Brian practice test that you should be anything other than confident. Just happened to see this, Brian. Your videos are great. There you go. And thanks for the free info. Yeah, free is a pretty popular price point for sure.
Yes, it is.
Thank you so much, Crypto Man. Failed the 65 twice. Oh my God. I would like to know your test scores as a data point before I answer. But I think Brian and I both think that a lot of times when somebody is struggling more than once, when the scores are 60s, let's say, high 60s, I don't think that's a knowledge deficit problem. I think it's some other variable that hopefully we can discover, whether it's test taking technique, whether it's changing answers, lack of confidence, whatever it may be. My suggestions would be, I will link Crypto Man to a podcast episode that I made called You Failed, Is It Over? Spoiler alert, the answer is no. But one of the things I recommend, and there's 5 recommendations I make in that podcast episode I'll link to, is to do a kind of an intellectual inventory with yourself, debrief, and say, okay, what do I think my problem is? Is it identifiable? Sometimes it's not. But if we can sit down and say, well, I don't want to repeat the same study plan that led to the first two misses. So what can I add? Can I add a paid supplement from Brian? Can I add a free supplement from Dean? What changes can I make? What tweaks? Your thoughts, Brian?
Absolutely. And we talk a lot about those who score 68s, 69s, 70s more than once. And we often talk about it's probably not too much of a knowledge deficit, but the way in which you're taking the test. All my videos, I discuss test taking, important test taking. Keep it simple. Stay with what you know. Don't change your answers at the end.
Don't bring stuff into questions.
That's
particularly on the NASA exams, Crypto Man. I was just tutoring a guy. We did a 65 shared screen practice test. And then he said, well, what about professional athletes? I said, where is a professional athlete in this question? Did I miss something?
Exactly. They're making things up that aren't even in the question. Yeah. Keep it simple. Stay
within the confines of the question. So that's harder to do on NASA. So I always joke.
Yeah. One other thing, Dean, I'm sorry. Look at those score sheets from your two prior attempts. Find the two lowest areas. That's probably the best place to start.
Yeah, and the score sheet, Crypto Man, matches up to the test specifications published by NASA, which can help you even more isolate, hopefully, those areas where maybe we can add some more points. So, and then as I kind of hinted, what if they meant they don't? So don't be bringing stuff into questions. It's easier to do on those NASA exams.
Sure is.
How many times we hear this, Brian? Well, what about the de minimis? I go, well, where's that in here? There's nothing in here about that either. Yasha, yeah, Brian, remember, he has the luxury of either choosing to join us or not. And he's very gracious. Most Tuesdays he does offer to join up, and I always like having him around. Sometimes, he might be watching the Four Nations. I know you're a hockey fan. Is that over yet? When do we play Canada?
It's not over yet. There's the final.
We got one more game, right? I hear our team got booed.
The anthem got booed again.
So they weren't booing our hockey guys. Just hard to believe we're getting in a tit for tat with our Canadian friends. That's crazy. Well, there you go, Robert. I'm glad you found us too. We're getting easier to find. Who would have thunk it, Robert? We have coming up on 6 million views. Never in my wildest dreams when I started this channel did I think we would have 6 million views. I mean, I don't know if that's one person watching the same video 6 million times. We're coming up on 50,000 subscribers. Again, I never thought my wildest dreams. Brian and I know that our business is pretty simple. That, if people pass the test and we can contribute to that typically they're going to be happy and they're going to give us referrals. So the reason this channel, I think, is number one is because we don't overthink it. We try as much as possible to contribute to testing victories. And then hopefully what follows from that is referrals as well. Definitely 3-0, right on. Going 3-0. I like it. Hey, Natalie, is this our same Natalie from class? We got Joe from class. Thanks for joining us. I think Natalie is one of my Series 7 students as well. I got to change my booking page because it goes by first names. I realize there could be more than one Natalie out there in the world. So when I have somebody in the tutoring booking page, they tell me, oh, I'm John. I go, oh, got a bunch of those. Oh, man. See, and the firm commitment, they're reminding me I have a firm commitment to go 30-0 in this class. But remember, whether it's class, whether it's the channel, whether it's my booking page, these may be transactions for you. Brian and I know that we come into your life for a reason and a season. And the reason is to help you pass your exams, and the season is how long that takes. As I say that, though, remember, wherever you're at in your testing journey, it's not a transaction. It is a relationship. It can be a community relationship like we have here every Tuesday, or one of our Reddits or our Facebook. It could be the Kaplan class. But make sure if you need to reach out that you do so and get some help, whatever help you need. All is well, Isaac. All is well. All right. Woohoo! Well, I mean, that's kind of a weird way to do it. Dale, you're 65. For those of you who may be new, we ring the bell for testing victories. For whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee, Emily, victorious test taker in the house. Now, I don't know why you wouldn't want to pay attention to what Brian and I say about exams, but you might want to take advantage when we have a victorious test taker in the house to ask Emily. Every draw is a little different, but that being said, maybe she'll answer some questions. Kind of a weird way to circle back on the 7. My guess is maybe you have a 6, 63, got a 65, and now you're going for your 7. I think you're in good shape because 65 has some 7 stuff. So I would think you'll be victorious there as well. There you go. Kudos to Emily. By the way, we love when you come back because it's good for morale. You're always welcome on a Tuesday night as a victorious test taker to join us. Now, I know some of you, when you get through your testing journey, the season is over and you may unsubscribe from the channel. You don't have to, but I get it. But assuming you're still subscribing, you get the notification, feel free to pop in and say hi to people because it helps sometimes. It might lift somebody's spirits who is testing, and maybe they just need a little kick in the ass or a little somebody to buck them up. 65 on Thursday. If I don't pass, I blame you, Dean. Well, there you go, Gus. I have big shoulders. You can blame me, right? I would say, Gus, in terms of my podcast episode, you failed, is over. The answer is no. One of the things I say you shouldn't do is start whining to whoever your person is about your test prep vendor, or I found this free YouTube channel. You should own it. And you should own it as quick as possible. You should go for the assumptive close that person is sending you back into the cave to slay the dragon again, and what you're going to do to fix it. So, yeah, I'm kidding you. You can certainly blame me, Gus. I don't mind. But if you do miss the mark, let's not send out negative energy. But if you do, you should own that as quick as possible and say what you're going to do to fix it. Finish reading the Kaplan book for 65. Well, Jeff, kudos to you. That is not an easy read. No, Ryan and I we're old school, think you should read the book cover to cover. I think that should be the first thing you try and accomplish. I realize that, maybe that's not the modern world we live in. But, Jeff, that is a serious accomplishment, particularly the Kaplan 65, because it's big. I love it. And now you're on to that next stage. I love it. Doing your quizzes and practice tests, March 17th. Any advice? Rinse and repeat. Brian showed you the 3-pillar study process he believes in. It looks like you're now in that second area. You got your book read. You're doing your quizzes. You're doing your tests about 10 days out. So March 7th, you start really going into those practice tests. Remediation. We're not taking practice tests to learn new stuff. We're doing it to kind of see where we're at, get a mark, and do the remediation to kind of bring those marks up. Sometimes, Brian, I get people who are, they're like mice in a maze and they think they get some cheese by doing some practice tests. No, we're trying to do practice tests to get the mark and then remediate and get the mark up. I've had people who tell me they've done 10 practice tests and their score isn't moving. And it's because, again, they're not doing it properly. They're not doing one. They're not doing the remediation. They're just piling them on top of each other. And that doesn't really accomplish much. You're not trying to do the test and then learn by reading the rationales. That's not what we're attempting. We're attempting to get a mark, improve the mark. I call that improve, Jeff, your margin of safety, right? I told you everybody who I had yesterday has a huge margin of safety in terms of where they're scoring in the actual exam. I think they can take down any draw. The dream draw is what I'm wishing for everybody. The dream draw is you go, man, everything I study is here. I don't know what the big deal is. But we got to be prepared for the face of death draw. Like, oh my God, slog on your way through it. All right, Christina. She used that's the best superhero combo out there. I'm joking.
It really is.
Guru and the Test Geek. We do podcast episodes together, and we call it the Test Geek and the Guru podcast. I think we got 65. We got 66. I'm going to try and rope Brian into doing some more. We got to do, I think we can do a 6. We could do an SIE. We should probably do a SIE. I think I've done
SIE.
one.
I think SIE.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that one next, right? And we try to make those so you can listen to them in your car or listen to them at the gym, whatever the case may be. So I think it's a good combo.
Because those are unique. This is the first time they're taking any of these exams, right?
That's
so
true,
they really have no expectations of what they're going to see. So the SIE, I think, would be a good
They
podcast.
don't know how good we really are. The other thing I would say is that if you combine my free content with Brian's paid content, what I told you again, confirmation, it's going to be hard for you to do distillation of my channel because there's 1,400 videos. There's, I don't know, 3,000 hours of content. So that's a wonderful thing, I think. But it can be a little challenging for you to kind of get your head around that. So again, if you have Brian's course, the paid supplement, now it makes you more informed in terms of what you might want to cherry pick on my channel.
Exactly.
I'm using Camel Study My 66. And my study plan, it has me taking more than one simulated day in the last week. I'm not a fan of that, Joy. So, don't leave here and say Brian and Dean said, but we are not big believers in doing more than one exam a day because the second score isn't reliable. We're interested in that data set of those scores. And so I had a guy and he did 4 of them a day. Now listen, it's a buffet. Like I say, take what you want, leave what you don't. But the 4 score is not reliable. And, it defeats the purpose. Now, I had a guy and I told him, I said, listen, a tiger can't change its stripes. And he goes, oh, Dean, I did 2 today. I go, well, hey, whatever. But, our best practice, Brian and I, is no more than 1 practice test a day. Now, there are a lot of OGs out there. Maybe, Brian, do we still encounter these people? Are they still out there who?
Yeah, they're still there.
What they should do is just a gazillion practice tests before they test. And that's what they do. We used to have more of those people around, I think.
And they often tend to be pretty good test takers like you and I, but not everybody's a good test taker that can do 3 tests in a day, right? We have to remediate through that performance tracker our weak areas. Like Dean said, we're just trying to get a score and, more importantly, find the weak areas.
Counterintuitive, right?
Bolster those areas.
It's right? Counterintuitive, but what we're trying to find is what you don't know.
Exactly.
Right?
I can't imagine taking 2 3-hour exams in one day. That's 6 hours of taking exams. Boy, you're not tired at all after that second one, are you?
Yeah. Past the 66. All right. Woo! PhD at modern portfolio theory. Well, there are such men and women out there that do have indeed PhDs in modern portfolio theory. Now, you know what PhD stands for, don't you? Piled higher and deeper. Now, listen, I told you before, I have she's not such a young lady anymore, but man, she's been at BlackRock probably now 20 years. She's a very senior person. And she doesn't have a PhD in modern portfolio theory, but she has great people skills. And I always tell her that one of the reasons she makes a good living, a lot of reasons, she's knows what she's doing, but she can translate these guys and gals who have the PhD in modern portfolio theory are not typically people who do well relating to customers. So she helps them. Are you cooked? Well, I don't know enough to answer that. I don't think so. I mean, you're never cooked. I mean, I've only begun to fight, right? The ship is going down and I'm still going to convince you that I can fire another broadside at you. I never think you should go in with the attitude of defeat. So the answer to that is no. And I'm more worried that you may think that than that may or maybe not be true. That's not the important part. I don't have enough data. Again, I'd like to have a practice test score. That would be helpful. And but remember, you got to be confident tomorrow. So I don't think you're cooked. But if you remember in chat, people can see your chat. So, but if you'd like, tell us your score, and then I'll tell you what is your margin of safety. Do you have one or not? Emily, I had 4 questions on net present value, but the class made them easy. Well, there we go. Right. So I think that the test prep vendors, particularly on NASA exams, Emily, are guilty of overcomplicating those exams. And people go in there with a warped, by the way, they're devoting time and resources in their brain housing group to things that could be better filled with other things. So, just past the 66. Woo-hoo! Studying hard. Well, Cynthia, we got to get you through this thing. So that's what you need to be doing. Again, nice break, right? This could be considered part of your study plan. If you need a little break, come over to the live stream on Tuesday. Check in with victorious test takers. Maybe pick up a tidbit here or there. Just finished Brian's video. Breath
I
of
always
fresh.
get welled up every time Cynthia shows up. I just
Yeah.
wish
We have.
all the financial employees were someone like Cynthia.
Oh,
Just
there you go. We do have some beautiful men and women who are in our lives. And Cynthia, we love it because when we see you, we know our season with you is not over. Some people were glad when their season is over. I say, oh, I'm glad that we're not going to see those folks again, but not in your case, Cynthia. Now, that doesn't mean we don't want you to pass your exam so you can continue to come see Brian and Dean. But that being said, I'm with Brian. I got to, that YouTube has been on me to sell paid channel memberships. I'm not going to do it, Cynthia. But one of the things they say is that, then people could get badges and emojis and, things like that. And Cynthia, all that to say, if I did have paid channel memberships, I would give it to you for free and I would give you your free badge. I don't know what my badges would be, but you would certainly get one. A breath of fresh air. Brian is a breath of fresh air. Man. Be careful, Robert. We might have to deal with him. But I do have to say, sometimes I've been with Brian and, we'll go into a nice place and as he walks in, it is like a breath of fresh air.
That's right.
I think that's probably because he tips well, right? So, taking the 63 in 2 days. I've watched all the videos. Love it. RDR2 clips. Wow. Any tips on where to focus in these last 2 days? Yes. So there you go. You got enough time to do that. But I have 2 videos for 63 that I would highly recommend. I'd rewatch them if you said you watched them all, but I'd rewatch them. One is the Mighty 90. The Mighty 90 is 90 minutes on the Uniform Securities Act. It is target rich. I mean, what I intentionally try to do is pack 4 hours into 90 minutes. The second one I would highly recommend, and I will link in the video description, is the 63 in 60 minutes. And I'd like you to listen to that the night before and or morning of your exam just to get in the flow. Because, the 63 is not a natural flow state to be in. It's not like, So those videos, too, I think are helpful just kind of get you in that flow state. If you do have Brian, I didn't see you have Test Geek. Brian's PDF is a great thing. I also tell people to review the night of or morning of his PDF, where he has his cheat sheet. He has some key facts and figures for you. And if you have that, make use of that. You are welcome. What recommendation? I don't know anything about life and health. Do you have any?
I don't.
Person?
I've taken the life and health years ago. I took it once.
Yeah.
And then
I wish I could remember. I want to say Nicholas. She's called the Queen of Life Insurance. There's somebody out there who's kind of sounds like a life insurance social media personality in a good way. So I don't know. Four Nations Emily was just the NHL where they did a tournament with Finland, Sweden, Canada, and the USA to kind of give some juice to their all-star game, which was kind of losing it. What I understand, I know Brian is a hockey fan. And what I understand, Brian, is it worked pretty well. That they have some pride in their country.
Exceptionally well, yes.
I heard the U.S. players, when they got in a fight, like in 10 seconds or something. I'm never quite sure if that's a normal part of the hockey experience.
Not as much as it used to be. But.
And they're trying to get out of there. The same. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. The problem, I think, of the challenge of 63, not a lot of performance opportunities. So you can't really be missing too many questions on the 63. Well, Cassie, thank you. Another Kaplan. Thank you so much. I thought we might have somebody who's going on to the 24. So, that is a big testing journey because some people get hired to go into compliance or supervision. And so, they have the SIE and then they got to do the 7 and the 63 and the 24. Wow. So thanks for joining us. We got a great class. I really am enjoying our class. I'm not enjoying the slide deck from Kaplan. Oh my God, Brian. They have these slides that are blank. Now I get that we might want people to fill them in, but my goodness, we're spending a lot of time filling in slides. Once in January, took the different from Kaplan and stunned me, huh? That's weird. Well, you get different draws. That sounds like a strange draw because the subject matter expert on Kaplan is a guy named Chuck Lowenstein. He lives for these NASA exams. You might want to consider buying Brian's paid supplement to maybe, I think Brian, I told you, is pretty spot on. Brian and I do a lot of debrief. So, we might be a little more on target perhaps than Kaplan. So any thoughts? I would say add a supplement. The one I would recommend to you is Brian, 20% discount all in, about $100, give or take. Right.
This is one of the first things that anybody says the first time they take one of these exams. You must understand the wording of the exams, the answer sets will never be exactly like somebody else's. We're not allowed to. It's copyrighted material. We get in a lot of trouble if we rewrite these questions exactly the way they are on the test. There is always a gap between my questions and the real one. Between Kaplan's, between past perfects, there's always a gap. What I try to do, of course, is to close that gap as closely as the law allows.
There you go.
There's still going to be that gap, but they're still asking the same concepts.
Yeah, I agree with this concept, Connor. So, when we do a Kaplan, I shared screen practice test. So, you can sign up on my booking page to do a practice test. Sometimes people give me permission, not always, but sometimes they give me permission to put it on the channel. I had somebody complaining about a shared screen practice test. And I said, well, listen, I think you need a better attitude of gratitude. That's somebody who paid over $800 and was kind enough to share that with you.
Wow.
They didn't need to. So it was really about them. It's not about you. It's about them. And they were kind enough to share it. But Connor, what happens sometimes, even on those Kaplan practice tests, like the other day, I did 3 of them. And somebody would have the right answer. I would mask the answer set and they have the right answer. And then I say, now listen, that answer you have may not be available to you, but you have demonstrated you own the concept, which is more important. Let's now do the reveal and see which one of those answers do you think most closely approximates.
So key to that.
Yeah.
I tell people a lot of times, answer it first before you start looking at those answers. That's absolutely key.
And then they have words that can mean the same thing. Right. And so, that is a challenge in and of itself. Right. So that's what I was telling. So that was an example, Connor, where Kaplan, I think the content in that question is spot on. And this test taker knew that content. They knew what they were being asked and they knew what the answer was generally. One of my favorite versions of this is I was a young lady. She gave me the most street kind of answer. I mean, just vulgar and lots of words that I won't repeat. I said, okay, now good news for you. That is the right answer, but nobody is ever going to say it that way.
That's right.
So now we got to put that into plain English.
Yeah. I refer to them as ambiguous synonyms.
There you go.
They say the same thing, but in different words.
What's the word you have on one of your practice tests? And people take exception. I think it's proscribed.
Oh, that's right.
And I said, listen, don't get mad at Brian. He's just trying to tell you that you got to be prepared for context and, these words. Took the 65 round 1 in January. Oh, I think we did that one. I've been watching both your videos in preparation for my 7 been a great help. Thank you so much. That's what we hope. We hope that, we're helping contribute to your testing victory. It's always very gratifying to Brian and I when we can contribute to testing victories. That's our goal. That's our goal. Pass the SIE in Series 7.
Wow. There you go.
It's definitely not as exciting. I'm with you, Alba. I'm with you. Shall I obsess over memorizing PDs and IAs? No. So registration, the test specifications, Alba, call it laws and regulations. I would call it laws and registrations. How do we register a security? If not, why not? How do we register a broker dealer? If not, why not? How do we register an agent of a broker dealer? If not, why not? How do we register an investment advisor? If not, why not? How do we register an investment advisory representative? All those together, the BD, the agent, the IA are called securities professionals, right? Securities professionals. The vast majority of those questions, I think test prep vendors, Alba, get into the weeds. Oh my God, on registration of securities. I think that's pretty straightforward. Brian has a great thing I like. He says he just thinks of non-exempt securities as corporate securities. Man, that takes care of probably 3 units in these test prep vendors. I'm joking, but
Yeah, it does.
right. So if it's a non-exempt security, corporate security needs to be read. There's 2-3 questions there. Broker dealers, agents, I think pretty straightforward. Right. So I'm changing your regulations of BDs to registration of BDs. 2, 3, 4, very straightforward. The vast majority of those registration questions are going to be about the investment advisor and the investment advisor rep. What do you think there, Brian? 5, 6, 7, maybe?
It varies just because of the draw, but yeah, that's pretty close.
So I would put my emphasis on IAs and IARs as it relates to registrations. And remember that laws and regs, the other big component of that section is disclosures and unethical business practices.
Absolutely.
And that unethical business practice is really target rich on 65 and 66, maybe 14 questions or so. Disclosures, 10 or so. So target rich. Studying for Series 7 in the high 60s. Can't seem to get past that. So I don't know when your test date is, but let's say it's 10, 12 days out. I would give yourself permission to take a day off, to refresh, reset, let your brain kind of think about it, because you might be getting a little too close to the information. That could be it. It could be you're not doing the remediation. So you're just doing a practice test without identifying your weak areas, bringing the base up. That could be it. So I got 2 recommendations. One, take a day off if you can, just to refresh and reset, come back to it. Your brain will be working on it. My second recommendation would be make sure you're doing remediation and maybe don't do more than 1 a day. Brian, your thoughts? Performance tracker, right on.
Yeah, depending on our time, just like you mentioned.
That's right.
You got to find those weak areas in the simulated exams through the performance tracker. What areas are you scoring lowest? Now, for the 7, I'm always looking at 2 things at first. I first say options. Second thing I say suitability. Do you know your product knowledge well enough that you can make suitable recommendations of those products based on their objectives? Those are the 2 areas I first look at.
The biggest area on Series 7. So, Myra, the Series 7 is based on 4 critical functions of being a broker: finding a customer, opening an account, making an investment, and what happens afterwards, the back office support unit, whatever you want to talk about there. 91 questions is function 3, providing basic product information to customers. And one of the ways you can attack suitability questions, because suitability questions are judgment questions. They're the hardest kind of questions because the 3 styles of questions on the exam are recognition, practical application, and judgment. There's no interpretation of a recognition question. You simply know it or you don't. The option agreement has to be back in 15 days, for example. Practical application, no interpretation about what current yield is. You either know it, can do the math or not. You want to save your misses for the judgment, about 10%. Now, if you're really solid on products, for example, you know that partnerships are not liquid, do not have a freely transferable interest, you would know that be clearly unsuitable where somebody needs liquidity. So I really want you to load up on product knowledge as it relates to suitability. Now, I do have a suitability playlist, and I will link it in the video description. I have a whole series of videos on suitability as it relates to the Series 7 practice questions, practice tests, things like that. By the way, though, but Brian's point, if you target those target-rich environments like function 3, that should bring your score up in terms of the actual exam. I'm not a big fan of Exam FX, Diesel, and I'm not a fan of Exam FX training consultants because I think they're a little too skinny, not enough meat on the bone, so to speak, content-wise. Past Perfect, I think, is too fat, but having too much is better than not enough. So I would highly recommend, if you're using a training consultant's Exam FX, to use a supplement, whether it's a free supplement like my channel or a paid supplement like Brian or Kaplan QBank. I would strongly consider that.
Is that Life and Health, LH?
I think so, but I don't know anything about Life and Health. In general, I would think it would be the same. Brian's paid content is well worth it. I agree, Emily. I totally agree. Good investment. Tomorrow at noon, I like it, Mason. noon, high noon at the OK Corral with the Series 24. Give me one random, obscure, testable fact to remember. Well, I don't know. What's that?
Market making.
Market making? Well, I think it's too late, right? If it's
Not just give her one market making question, just random. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I'd be prepared to recognize a locked or cross market as relates to market making. What do you think, Brian?
Yep.
So, Mason, listen, at this point, we would hope you would already know this. By the way, I love your avatar, man. Look at that. Now, I always like a guy who knows how to tie a tie. I used to tell my baby brokers, if you don't have the resources, at least spend the money on a good tie, good belt, good shoes. Those are hard to fake, and make sure you can tie a tie. So, Mason, I like that. You look like a general securities principal. Right. So, market making, locked and cross markets, make sure you can deal with that, right? Remember, it's the responsibility of the market maker entering the quote to make sure they don't walk or cross the market. What I'm supposed to do is say trade or move. I don't think it's obscure, but Mason, I'm really leery of doing this with you because I don't want you to go backwards, but make sure that you know trace. I can't imagine any draw, Mason, of your 24 where you're not tomorrow going to get asked about the trade and reporting compliance engine. Make sure you understand it's dual side reporting.
That's right.
Most of the time, it's just one side of the trade that reports the sell side. But in debt securities, when we're using trace, it's dual side reporting. Make sure you know the report needs to be made in 15 minutes. Here's an obscure fact. I got one for you, Mason. People get hung up on this all the time. The report is released immediately to the public. So people get messed up on I thought it was 15 minutes. Different question, right? When do you have to report to trace 15 minutes? When is it released to the public by FINRA? Immediately. There you go. I think I nailed that one. Trace. Yeah. What do you think? Do you get lots of reports that Trace is definitely on the 24?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the dual reporting, the dual side.
One more thing, Mason, won't make or break it. But Brian has a video that is worthwhile for you to go find right now on buy-ins and sellout procedures of the Uniform Practice Code. Mason, I have had 24s literally cry with joy after they watched that Brian video. Now, I'm going to link it to the video description, but I wouldn't wait because you're going tomorrow noon for me to do that. Just go to Brian's YouTube channel. Is it labeled 24, Brian? What is it labeled?
Yeah, I label most of the YouTube videos.
So look at it. It's called, I think it's called buy-in and closeouts or something like that. And it's a question. What do you think? A question? It's not going to make or break it.
Yeah.
But go check it out. Go check it out. I feel like I'm understanding the content, but test scores are 65. I'm so nervous to do this again on Monday. I wish I had a magic pill that could just banish anxiety and nervousness. And, and if I did, I'd be rich, right? Test scores are 65. I think that's fine. Rachel, when I am talking to people, let's say I'm teaching a class. Right now I'm teaching, I think we have 30 people in class today. We don't do this anymore, but when I was teaching for corporations, I still do, but it's, I don't go on campus anymore. But when we did, we would do like a 4-day class, Monday through Thursday. They take a practice test Friday. They're testing Monday. And, we had 6 people in this 20-person class who got between 60 and 70. I told the corporate trainer, this will be you, Rachel, that 3 of these 6 are at risk. Statistically, I think 3 of the 6 are going to fail their exam. And she said, well, which 3? And I said, well, if we knew that, we'd go rescue them, but it's just statistics. And I said, it's unfortunate because they don't need to miss their mark with a score between 60 and 70. But what happens is they start getting nervous. They start second guessing themselves. They stop working. They get wobbly. Woe is me. And they don't finish strong. If all of them over the weekend just kept with what they're doing, they would all pass. Now, I was really happy, Rachel, because they all passed. She goes, I thought you said we're going to lose 3 of them. I said, that's not what I said. I said, statistically, they're at risk. We don't know who they are. Hey, but good news, they passed. So if I were a betting person, Rachel, I think the odds are better that you're going to pass than you're not with a score of 65. And now the variable isn't the content. It's not that you aren't dedicated, you're not disciplined, you're not organized, because you are. Now it comes down to being confident in yourself, being confident in the execution of your study plan. Most importantly, Monday, being confident in your answers. Don't be kissing up to this exam, right? So make sure you're doing your best. 63, 65, back to back. I like it. SI exam tomorrow, Stephen. Oh, woohoo. Second attempt. Yeah, I think you're going to get it. Usually when somebody gets a 65, that means you went into the cave to slay the SIE dragon, got a good look at him, but he got you. But now you know what he looks like. You're going to go in there tomorrow, and this time you're going to slay that SIE dragon, right? So I'm feeling pretty good that you're going to get it done. Also, if I pass, I'll have my series. Oh, my God, Mason, that's fantastic.
Wow.
I started on the business when I got out of the Marine Corps. So, oh, my goodness, if I do this math, I'm going to feel really old. I joined the Marine Corps when I was 17, 2 years in the Marine Corps, 19, went to college, and I was working at a broker-dealer through college. So what's that? So I think I might beat you. I think I was 21, 22 when I got mine done. But boy, that's awesome. Kudos to you. Listen, our industry is a great industry. I don't know your background, Mason, but I'll say in general, if you are poor and you deserve to be rich, the securities industry is for you. If you are in our business any lengthy period of time, like listen, the learning curve is pretty steep. You're going to do well. So lots of people in our business that are doing it because they still like it and they find it fun. I think you're in good shape, Stephen. I think you're in good shape. Moonboy Floyd. I like that, Moonboy Floyd. Thank you for helping you pass the 6 and 63. Woo!
There's the hat trick.
I would say the 65, man. We were talking about slaying dragons. Listen, that 65 dragon is a little more formidable than 6 dragon and 63 dragon. So, make sure you put in the work. I'm sure you will. 6 weeks. You got plenty of time to prepare, right? Yeah. Taking a 7 on Monday, taking 10. I love it. Few study days, rinse and repeat. Watching a lot of the guru videos. Love it. Super helpful. There you go, Gianna. So, yeah, do that performance tracker. 75 is right where you need to be. Brian and I would have no reason to believe you're not going to make your mark with those scores. So, you've done 10 of them. That's awesome. That's awesome. Make sure you pace yourself. I don't want to tell you not to work, but make sure you have enough fuel to stick the landing on Monday, right? Right. So make sure you don't wear yourself out, so pace yourself, pace. I love that video. Oh, you saw it already. Threshold securities. There you go. Any more tips? I don't think so. I think you're in pretty good shape.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah, Semper Fi is our motto in the Marine Corps, Emily. Always faithful. Semper Fidelis. I met a young Marine, Brian. He said, Semper Gumby. I go, what the hell is Semper Gumby? And he goes, it means we're always flexible. I go, no, Marines aren't flexible. You don't expect a Marine to be flexible. I mean, we adapt and we overcome. But I wanted to write the Commandant and say, hey, we got to tell these young Marines to stop being Semper Gumby. Yeah, lots of passes. We have a lot of testing victories. Thanks for your recommendation on supplementing my past perfect. Right on. Past Series 10. Thank you, goodness. Wow.
The slog.
That 10, man, Tessa, is a slog. I put the 10 right up there with the 65 in terms of difficulty. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, oof. All right. Well, it looks like we're at the end of our time together. We let Brian pick our words. Now, what you win, we're going to do the Wheel of Fortune here. And what you win is a coaching call. You don't need me to get the coaching call because you can access it on the booking page on your own. So it's free and you just go there. And like I say, it's a $275 value because that's what I usually charge for tutoring. So Brian, let's put that. You'll see the Wheel of Fortune come up here in a minute if you wish to participate. Oh, we're going for the Marines. I love it. Well, we can't go Semper. We got to go Semper Fidelis.
Well, I don't like using 2 words because you don't,
Oh, well, no, we got to go the whole way. So,
okay.
Semper Fidelis. You got to put it in the exact way I have it in the Wheel of Fortune. Let me go find the Wheel of Fortune. Share screen. Window, Semper Fidelis. There we go. Can you guys see that?
There you go.
So boom, let's get that. Boom. And let me just, you don't need me to book it, but if you need to, you can send me an email. But if you win, just go to, where is it? Boom.
And you got the
DeanTennyTutoring.setmore.com. You'll see on the class tab, free coaching call for weekly drawing winner. That would be you if you win. And you put that in there, and we will get that. Listen, I'm giving you a couple minutes here. You guys are putting Semper Fi. It's got to be Semper Fidelis. Semper Fidelis, right? Semper Fi, but you got to have it like I have it on the screen. It won't pick up Semper Fi.
See, that's why I only do one word.
Yeah, well, there you go, Brian. You're right. I learned my lesson. I should have just stuck with Brian and let him pick the word, but oh well, right? Anybody else want to participate? You got to put the exclamation point too, Alba. You got to have little flower. You got to have the exclamation point. Oh man, did I screw this up?
Did you? My goodness.
Right? Semper Fidelis. It's got to be exactly how you see it on the screen. And again, if you win, what you win is the coaching call. You go to DeanTennyTutoring.setmore.com. You go to the class tab, and you will see there the coaching call for weekly drawing winners. And then you just tell me what you want to talk about when we show up. When we talk about, by the way, I should tell you that free stuff, coaching calls, that weekly Q&A, the book club, all that free stuff on the booking page, there's not much of it, but it can get bumped if I have somebody who wants to pay. Right? If a guy says, hey, Dean, yeah, can you give up the free coaching call for a $275 tutoring session? The answer is yes. All right, anybody else? Did I get this fixed? What a disaster. Okay, here we go with the drawing.
Yeah, there's quite a few there.
Ivy, all right. Woo-hoo. What better winner than Ivy? So, Ivy, you already have my email. You know how to get a hold of me, but you don't need to. Just go to the booking page. Now, remember, you don't win a tutoring session at a date and time of your choice. That's not what you win. You win the scheduled coaching call for the weekly drawing winner. But that being said, you can just go there, Ivy, and register for that. And then think about what you want to spend the hour doing. And then if you need to send me an email, I know you know how to do that. My email address is dean@guruexamprep.com. Anything else? All right. Well, Brian, thank you so much for joining us tonight. For those of you who are about to test, remember, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch, yard by yard, your exam is hard. And Brian, you say?
You got to learn to keep it simple. Stay with what you know. You take the test. Don't let the test take you.
All right. Hoorah. I'll see you. We'll see everybody next Tuesday, 5 p.m. Arizona time. Bye-bye.